This is Jennifer Vatsa of Belladonna's Botanicals, and if you're, you know, subscribe to this channel, I've often talked about my struggles with neurodivergence, being on the spectrum, having ADHD, having, issues with depression and anxiety, and also having chronic pain and mobility issues. Um, One of the things I was thinking about, because a friend had inquired if there were any books on basically magic for like disability magic, for people who, can't set up, fancy ritual spaces and things like that, and have, larger issues, and how to streamline and modify magical workings to make them accessible for themselves and their own personal needs. Um, so what I want to do, and I may bring in others to collaborate on this, is I would like to kind of start a series, and please, by all means, in comments, suggest any topics you would like to see covered, of sort of, I want to call them, life hacks for magical life hacks for, when you have these different issues going on, like how to prepare for a ritual when you're ADHD as fuck, because that for me, like making a little like ritual checklist of all the things I need, because I will forget the lighter every damn time. So it's doing some things like that, little helpful like tips and tricks, and how to set up your ritual spaces and connect them in a way. Like one of the things I'm working on right now, I'm going to do a video specifically on this. Throughout my house, I have a lot of different altars and sacred spaces and magical spaces. So what I am doing, because I can't always like, I mean, I can't really spend a whole lot of time either standing or sitting, in front of my altar, depending on the setup. So one of the things I'm working on is basically kind of like creating a magical internet linking system between all my magical spaces and harmonizing them to one centralized location that I can take anywhere. So, having, something that's portable, that if I can't get out of bed, or I'm just more comfortable, laying on the sofa doing this, I don't have to drag my whole altar in there, or, put myself through hours of pain trying to set up, a ritual and try to do things at an altar where I'm extremely uncomfortable. So, there goes Corey. And so that's one of the things I'm working on. Like, I know not everyone has multiple magical spaces in their house, but even if you do only have one space, you can kind of modify this so that, if you are, you know, traveling or in your car, or you go to a remote location, all you need is this one thing that kind of links you to your, all your magical spaces and the energy from them in a collective sense. So I'm devising the system and working on the sigils and the setup for this. So should be interesting. I'm very this was just kind of one of those like spiritual downloads, where you get like the idea for something and you're like, okay, so this is what I do. I need this, and this. Um, so to basically kind of interconnect all these spaces so I don't have to be present in them to access the energy of them or to affect the energy flow of them. So it's kind of like, if I have the altar with my, prosperity grid on it in the back bedroom, which is also overflow storage for my products. I don't need to be sitting in there burning candles for prosperity when I'm on, when it's just not feasible for me to do that. So to be able to connect to that altar space from another location and, do the work there, because I could just sit with a little, and with, I have a little kind of portable, I don't know if it's like an end table or whatever, but that I use sometimes when I'm downstairs. Yeah, I'll put my laptop on it or I'll eat dinner on it. But so I can burn my candle on that and use the device that I'm creating to connect to that energy and have it be so. Anyways, but if you have any suggestions for topics you'd like to discuss that have to do with making magic more accessible to people who have various disabilities, various for the yay neurospicy crowd, because sometimes like it's hard for me to just I'm not particularly skilled at things that require like memorization of a repetition. Like I still, if I do the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, I still need a piece of paper that tells me what to do at every step. And then I also need to be like, okay, which direction is east? Or, depending on where I'm at in my house. So for me, there's just some, kind of gaps in working with things. Now, one of the things within the, neurodivergent spectrum that I deal with is a little bit of a combination of dyscalculia and dysgraphia, which have to do with how we visually process. Dyscalculia is more math related, but for me, I know it translates a lot to like musical notes or computer programming or things like that. So that's where the dysgraphia, which is like signs, symbols, letters, numbers. So that's something that is hard for me to process. Like you'll never see me working with magical squares for that particular reason, because I just look at it, I'm like, all right, there's just a bunch of letters on a page. I can't connect with it in a way that would do dick for me doing magic with them. So, and I know there's a lot of, ritual things that call for using like the Abramelin squares and or magical squares and things like that, or creating them. I can work with sigils just fine. And I can create sigils just fine, but there's certain things that there's just like it just does not it just does not make visual sense to me to do. So and I'm a very visual person, don't get me wrong, but um so I'm looking at like how to create workarounds for these things for you know not every a lot of people read I have so many books and grimoires. I'm like, well, this sounds like a cool ass spell or ritual, but I'm not going to do it because of this, that, or the other thing. I'm not someone that's going to do if it requires timing, like every 6 hours I have to do this, or I have to do this for every day for 6 months, or every Saturday on at 4 p.m. I am never going to remember to do it, or it will just be like so making some of those things that, hey, if you're able-bodied and have no problems, are easy peasy lemon squeezy, but for me is like, I don't know, like be like building a house from scratch with no schematics. So I'm just trying to look at making magic more accessible for people, because it's something I don't see, and I am going to do more research on it as well as see. I don't think I've seen any particular books dedicated to it, but I'm going to see if there's any like YouTube or TikTok videos that people have that might be helpful for people like me, because I'd like to contribute something to the greater occult society. And that's something that I think is very much needed, is looking at like I mean, a lot of the questions I get about meditation are, I have ADHD, how the fuck do I meditate? I'm like, it's a good question, because I had that same problem when I first, I'm like, there's no quieting this mind. I mean, I can quiet this mind. It just takes like heavy duty anxiolytics and antipsychotics to do so. If I want to quiet my mind for a couple days, I gotta dope up myself on some Haldol to do it. Because it is just up there. So how do you meditate when you've got a brain that is going 20,000 miles an hour and you can't slow it down? So giving little tips like that, like, I mean, meditate, even if you can only meditate for like 2 minutes, it's at least a start. It'll help you in those ways. Or maybe what works better for you in that case is like moving, like a movement meditation, like something like I've found for me, because of some of those issues, like I do really well using visual games, like say something like Candy Crush or Bejeweled Blitz or something like that. That, doing these repetitive motion things with something visual can give me a focal point at which my brain can kind of start to quiet itself. So it's finding ways around what, people are like, oh, just sit there in your lotus position in a quiet space and let your mind go. I'm like, yeah, fuck you. That just does not work for everyone. Um, or I'm notorious for my morning meditations making me sleep an extra 2 hours. Because I will at some point in time be relaxed enough and I will just fall the fuck asleep. Um, but it's those types of things, getting started with astral travel, or for people who have not only issues with mobility or accessibility, or I mean, money is a big issue too, or being open in your practices. Not everyone can have multiple altars or even an altar in their house. Is doing your rituals in the astral realm and having them be just as efficacious as it would be to physically sit here and do the ritual in the room, in the physical space. So it's like using all these tools that we have and adapting them to our needs is something that I feel is really important. And I mean, even for people who are completely able-bodied can do it. It's, you've got a long train ride, bus ride, commute, if you can shut out all that noise and meditate and astral travel and stuff while doing that, I wish I could have done that, because holy hell, our freaking public transportation system sucks. But anyways, again, if you have any suggestions on this, let me know. I will definitely investigate them further. I'm going to start, talking with other practitioners to see how they incorporate it, because like, think about, okay, well, despite the fact I wear glasses, my vision is decent, but if I was visually impaired, how do you practice magic that way? Or if I am deaf, how do you adapt your magical sphere around that? If you're in a wheelchair, how do you adapt your magical practices in that sense? So, or if you're on a very limited budget, how do you adapt to do magic? Because, yes, we like the bells and whistles and shiny shinies, but you don't need all of that. Working with energy is something that's very important. Like, honestly, I think everyone should that practices magic, whether you want to practice Reiki on other people or not, or Qigong or any kind of energy medicine in that sense. I think it is really like learning how to work with that type of energy is really important. Um, and to do that, you don't need a whole lot of stuff. So, yeah, if you do crystal Reiki, maybe you need some crystals, but you don't have to do crystal Reiki to do that. Um, so yeah, I babbled all I'm notorious for babbling, as we all know if you watch this channel. Anyways, don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I love you all, and I will talk to you again soon.